Hey there guys, and happy whatever day it is that you're watching this video. So today is another coffee that I got from the London Coffee Festival. We're going to continue this train. And this one is a delicious coffee. It comes from Roots Coffee Roasters, and it's a Colombian Geisha, which we know are definitely something special. And as they always say, you cannot go wrong with a good Colombian. So today we're going to talk about it, we're going to taste it, and we're just going to, ramble on why it tastes so good and why it was worth the purchase. So kick back, relax, grab yourselves a coffee, and welcome to Today I Brewed. So, what makes this coffee so good? Well, this one I did try at London Coffee Festival, and needless to say, I was absolutely blown away by it. The guys who are on the stand, they had brewed it pretty much to perfection, and I didn't hesitate in buying a bag. My budget for the coffee festival was a decent amount, let's say, and I'm glad that this is one of the first coffees that I stumbled across, because after trying it, I definitely could not resist buying a bag. And it's fantastic. I don't think I've tried Roots Coffee Roasters before. I can't remember a time that I have. But I'm glad that the first one I tried was this one, because if all their coffees are as good as this, then they are gonna be in my top favourite roasters for sure. But let's talk about it. Let's kind of dissect the coffee, and then we'll get on to tasting it. So as I said, it's a Colombian coffee, and it comes from the region of Herrera Tolima, which I'm pretty sure is right. As I said, it's a Colombian. It's a washed coffee. And you can't go wrong with a good washed coffee, especially when it's a geisha. They always seem to taste amazing. Although, as I do have a preference for naturals, which I've definitely said before, I'm always going to kind of prefer that side of things. But for a washed coffee, you know what? It's fantastic. And this, is it too soon to say, is perhaps my favourite washed coffee that I've had in the last year. Maybe. Let's talk about it some more and see if that's a definite. But the altitude it was growing at was 1,700 metres above sea level. The notes that it's got are, delicious. There's honeycomb, lavender, and elderflower. And the roast date on this was the 6th of April. So again, we're about a month away from roast, which I'm not upset about. as I said in the last video, I love coffees that have been sat for around about this time. And again, that's a whole nother thing. Although I think James Hoffman has done something about roast dates and roasting in a video he did earlier this year or late last year. But you know what? It's fantastic. When I tried it at the London Coffee Festival, it tasted extremely juicy, which is a weird thing to say about elderflower, lavender and honeycomb. But that's just what it tasted like, and I kind of prayed this whole time that I could make it taste pretty similar, or at least as close to what I got at the festival as possible. Obviously, they're using better equipment, and like most baristas, they are better than me at making coffee. But I think I've done okay in this one. But again, like last time, I kind of want to give a shout out to the bag design. As you can see here, it just looks so cool. It really does. And I love the camper van on it. And although I'm not usually a huge fan of greenish colours, this is a bright bag and I like it. Simple yet very effective. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the process, how we got from bean to this. So let's brew it up. I think that I always kind of say that the grind is a really good part of the process. And it is, because you kind of get a feel for the aromas that are coming out. And I always kind of have the theory that if it smells nice on grind, you are pretty much there in terms of grind size for the brew. But this one was on point on the grind. I think the elderflower was the thing that came out the most. And although I don't drink a lot of elderflower these days, I used to drink a lot of it as a kid. And I always remember how potent the smell is, or the aroma. And it is something that kind of just reminds you of outside. It's refreshing, it's a delicious flavour, but it just reminded me of summer. You know, it just reminds me of the sun being out and taking long walks. It didn't get so much kind of honeycomb feel in the grind, but there was a little bit of lavender, just enough to let you know it was there, but not too much that it was overpowering. But it was exciting because when you smell it, you're like, I can't wait to taste this. I can't wait to see what this tastes like in a cup. So then when it did brew, or was brewing, as you can see, I've gone for the WDT on this again. I'm trying it out a little bit because I've tried it in the past, but don't think I gave it enough chance to really affect the flavours and I guess the process of the brew. So I'm trying it with all these, and probably will do it kind of for the rest of this season at least. But while it was brewing, I think that's when the aromas really started to pop. There's so much elderflower in the brew, followed nicely with the lavender, and there was a little bit of sweetness in the aroma, which I'm assuming, well, it has to be coming from the honeycomb. And I guess here we're talking about like really good honeycomb, like premium stuff. As much as I love a crunchy, I don't think we're talking about the same levels of honeycomb. But it was great, it was exciting, it was enticing, and it definitely gives you that desire to want to drink the finished product, which I was excited for. Again, the brew was a little bit longer this time. I think it clocked in at about 5 minutes 10 seconds. And I'm not upset about the longer brews on this one or the previous one. And I have read that when doing the WDT, it can cause a bit of a longer brew time, even though you're kind of opening up the space and getting rid of some of those blocks in the channels. So I am happy for the longer brew times on these. But anyway, we're here. The coffee's here, and it's ready. So let's talk about it. Let's taste it, and let's smell it. So there is a huge amount of elderflower coming out with a lovely lavender coming as well. I mean, that is like walking through a field of lavender. And I think I'm getting the subtle hint of the honeycomb right at the bottom, which is just rounding off the aromas quite nicely. And this might be the most balanced one that I've done, I think. Oh, that is smelling good. So let's taste it. How does it feel in the mouth? Hopefully not a question I have to ask too much. Boy, is that smooth. Real smooth. Like, it's got such a lovely texture. It feels honeycomby, but in a good way. Like if you could smooth down honeycomb into liquid, that it's got a lovely feel to it. Elderflower's coming through quite nice, and it reminds me a little bit of like bitter lemon and elderflower. But not too much on the bitterness, but that kind of feel. And there is a little bit of lavender in there, not so much on the taste than there is in the aroma, but you can definitely notice it. And it's a strange one because I don't tend to eat a lot of lavender, but I know what it smells like. But that is exceptional. It's a really well balanced coffee. It's roasted really well. It's a lovely light roast. And even though there is a linger on the tongue of that elderflower and a slight bit of honeycomb, the finish is unbelievably clean. It's got a nice feel in the mouth. Like it rolls around quite nicely, and you just get it all over the palate. So smooth. That is delicious. And I did check at the time of recording, the coffee is still available on the website, both in 250s and kilos. Well, I am happy, Roots Coffee. I am. And I'm hoping that I can drink more of your coffee in the future, if I'm honest. I know they won't all be geishas, but I'm hoping, or I'm certain, they're all going to be of this good quality. But that is fantastic. A real good cup. Really, really delicious cup. And I could use every other word that means brilliant, and it still wouldn't come close to describing how good this coffee is. So I'm going to go and finish it, and hopefully you guys enjoy this enough to go and buy a bag, because I know that I'll be certainly going back to buy more coffee from them in the future. So for now, if you haven't got yourselves a coffee already, then go get yourselves one. Treat yourself. Kick back, relax, and thanks for joining me on today's episode of Today I Brewed.